There is something your cat does every night that you have never seen. Not because it hides it from you exactly, not because it is secretive in the way people joke that cats are secretive, but because it happens in the hours when you are asleep and the yard is dark, and the version of your cat that you know. The one that sits on the warm side of the couch and watches you eat dinner and tucks itself against your legs at the end of the night. That version steps outside and becomes something else entirely. Researchers studying the nocturnal behavior of domestic and free-roaming cats have spent the last 2 decades documenting what happens in the hours between when your cat slips through the door and when it comes back in the morning with dirt on its paws and a look that gives nothing away. And what they have found is not what most cat owners expect. It is stranger, more purposeful, more emotionally complicated, and in at least one way, more touching than anything you would guess from watching your cat sleep on the radiator. Welcome back to Backyard Wildlife Mind. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe because what you are about to hear will change the way you think about your cat every single time it steps outside after dark. Tonight, we are walking through 8 things your cat does in your yard at night while you are sleeping. We are going to cover behaviors that researchers have only recently begun to document, and we are going to end with something that I think will stay with you the next time your cat walks back through the door in the early morning and acts like nothing happened. Stay with me from beginning to end, because behavior number 6 is something that surprised even the biologists who study cat movement for a living, and the final behavior, number 8, is the one that I believe will change the way you understand every quiet homecoming your cat has ever made. 1. Before it does anything else, it stops and reads the entire yard. The first thing your cat does when it steps outside at night is almost nothing. It pauses. It sits or crouches just beyond the door, sometimes for 30 seconds, sometimes for several minutes, and it reads the yard the way a person reads a room they have just walked into. Not casually, carefully. Many owners notice this pause, and it makes biological sense. Before moving, a cat can gather sound, scent, motion, and memory into one quick assessment of the yard. Their hearing range is extraordinary, extending far beyond human capacity, picking up frequencies from high-pitched insect sounds down to the low rustle of a mouse moving through grass 20 feet away. Their night vision is genuinely exceptional at detecting motion in near darkness. And their nose is cataloging the night air in layers, reading which animals have passed through, how recently, from which direction, and whether anything unusual has happened since the last time they stood in this exact spot. By the time your cat moves, it already knows more about what is out there than you would learn in an hour of walking around with a flashlight. The pause is not hesitation. It is preparation, too. It patrols a territory that may be larger than you realize. Most cat owners, if asked, would guess their cat stays fairly close to home at night, maybe wanders into a neighboring yard, maybe goes as far as the end of the block. GPS and radio tracking studies of free-roaming cats, including work from the University of Illinois and the International Cat Tracker Project run in partnership with North Carolina State University, tell a more varied story. Some cats travel farther than their owners would ever guess, moving across multiple properties in careful, purposeful circuits. Others stay surprisingly close, their range concentrated in the yards immediately surrounding home. But even when the range is small, the map is detailed. The cat that seems like a homebody in the afternoon is, at 2 in the morning, moving through a landscape it knows with a precision most humans would not expect. And the movement is not random wandering. It follows routes. The cat has a circuit, a series of checkpoints it visits in a fairly consistent order on most nights, updating its knowledge of each location, checking for changes, registering new scents, confirming that the territorial boundaries it has established are still being respected. The yard you look out at in the morning is the center of a much larger invisible map, and your cat has been maintaining that map in the dark while you slept. 3. It hunts, even if you fed it an hour before it went out. This is the one that cat owners find most uncomfortable to sit with, and I want to walk through it carefully because the discomfort is understandable, but the behavior itself is not cruelty. It is something older and more fundamental than that. Domestic cats are obligate carnivores with predatory instincts that thousands of years of living alongside humans have not meaningfully softened. The urge to hunt is not driven by hunger. It is driven by something closer to what researchers call predatory motor sequence, a chain of behaviors, stalk, rush, catch, kill, that the cat's nervous system is wired to complete, and that produces something resembling functional satisfaction when it runs to completion. Animal-born camera studies, including the KittyCams project, have shown that a significant portion of free-roaming cats hunt wildlife during their outdoor time, and that the majority of prey items are never brought home. Many are left where they fall. Some are eaten on sight. A well-fed cat hunts because hunting feels right to it in a way that has nothing to do with needing food. The highest risk windows often fall in low light, dusk, night, and the early morning, when many small animals are moving and visibility favors the cat. The prey varies by region: small mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, insects. Your cat knows its local landscape and adjusts accordingly. None of this means outdoor roaming is without consequence. Cats face real dangers outside, and they can have genuine impacts on local wildlife populations. Understanding the behavior is what helps owners make better choices, whether that is supervised outdoor time, a catio, a bell collar, or enriched indoor hunting play. But the behavior itself is as fundamental to your cat as breathing. 4. It has a social life you know almost nothing about. Cats are widely described as solitary animals, and in many respects that description is accurate. But the nighttime yard tells a more complicated story. Researchers studying free-roaming cat behavior have documented loose social networks in urban and suburban environments, where individual cats who would not be described as friends maintain regular, structured, largely non-aggressive contact with each other in the nighttime hours. They meet at specific locations, not to play, not to fight, but to do something that looks, to outside observers, like quiet coexistence. Cats documented through animal-born video have been observed sitting within a few feet of unfamiliar cats without aggression, sharing space at the edge of a property line, moving around each other with a choreography that suggested not friendship but mutual understanding. Your cat may not have friends in the human sense, but it likely has mental files for the other cats nearby. Their scent, their rotes, their temperament, their timing. It has probably sat in the dark within 20 feet of animals you have never seen, conducting the quiet social business of the nighttime world in a language made of posture and stillness and scent. 5. It leaves messages that other animals spend hours reading. Scent marking is the part of cat behavior that humans understand least, because we are almost entirely cut off from the information it contains. When your cat moves through the yard at night, it is not just traveling. It is writing. Every surface it rubs against, every patch of ground it pauses over, every spot where it deposits scent, is a message in a language that other cats and other animals will spend considerable time reading the following night. Research into feline chemical communication has shown that scent marks can carry identity and biological information, and their freshness tells other cats something about how recently the marker passed through. Other cats reading those marks are not just registering that a cat was here. They are building a picture of who and when. The yard you look at as empty spaces from the perspective of the animals moving through it at night, covered in text. Your cat is both writing and reading every time it goes out. It is updating its own entries and checking the entries of others. The nighttime yard is a community notice board, and your cat is one of its most regular contributors. 6. The night keeps looping back to the house. This is the behavior that the tracking data did not predict. This is the one I told you to stay for. In GPS and radio telemetry studies of free-roaming cats, researchers noted something in the movement patterns that did not fit a simple model of a cat leaving home and returning once at dawn. Many cats do not move in one clean line from home to the outside world and back again. Their movement loops. They leave, patrol, return close to the house, pause near the door or an exterior wall, and then move out again before the night is finished. We should be careful not to claim we know exactly what the cat is thinking in those moments. But behaviorally, the house functions as a central safe point, the place the night keeps referring back to. The home range, however wide or narrow, is organized around it. The patrols depart from it and return to it. The cat moves outward into wildness and then curves back, not yet ready to come in, but not willing to move far from the fixed point at the center of its territory. If you have a security camera aimed at your back door, check the footage from last night. There is a reasonable chance your cat was somewhere near that door at a point well before dawn, not trying to come in, just close, before turning and walking back into the dark. 7. It avoids certain parts of the yard and has never told you why. You may have noticed, if you watch carefully, that your cat has preferences in the yard that seem to have no obvious explanation. A corner it never sleeps in. A stretch of fence it crosses quickly. A section of garden it skirts around rather than walking through. These avoidances are not random. Cats are extraordinarily sensitive to environmental history, to the scent residue of previous animal activity, to the specific acoustic quality of certain locations, to subtle variations in ground cover that register something worth caution. A spot where a predator paused weeks ago may still carry enough olfactory trace for your cat to treat that location differently from the surrounding space. Researchers studying feline spatial behavior have noted that individual cats maintain what might be called avoidance zones within their territory areas they approach differently from surrounding space, and that these zones can persist long after whatever originally established them has moved on. Your cat's private map of your yard includes not just where the good things are, but where the uncertain things are, and it navigates between them every night with a precision and a memory you have never had reason to observe until now. 8. It comes back. And what that means is worth sitting with. I have saved this one for last because it is the simplest thing, and also the deepest thing, and I want you to take it seriously. Your cat goes out at night and becomes something ancient and competent and quietly extraordinary. It patrols a territory you have never walked. It hunts by instinct older than its domestication. It reads a world you cannot perceive and writes in a language you will never speak. It has a social life, a territorial life, a sensory life happening entirely outside the hours you share with it. And then it comes home. Research from Oregon State University has shown that domestic cats can form genuine attachment relationships with specific humans, attachments that share measurable characteristics with the bonds studied in human infants and their caregivers. The cat that moves freely and competently through the night is not a cat that has outgrown its bond with you. You may not be the only reason it comes back. The shelter is part of it. The familiar scent is part of it. The routine and the safety and the warmth are all part of it. But you are part of what home means. You have been. Every morning it has walked back through that door, part of the reason the night had a place to return to. Every time your cat tucks itself onto the warm chair or presses against your legs or finds the spot on the bed it always finds, it is not simply returning to the food and the shelter. It is returning to the place where the night ends. And you are one of the things that makes that place what it is. Before I go, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments. Has your cat ever come home in the early morning and done something that made you wonder where it had been? A look it gave you, something it carried back, a way it settled against you that felt different than usual? Tell me about it. The stories this community shares are some of the most extraordinary I read. And if anything in this video changed the way you think about the sound of the cat door opening before dawn, share it with someone who has a cat and would understand. Sometimes the right words at the right moment change what we notice for the rest of our lives. Thank you for being here at Backyard Wildlife Mind. I will see you in the next one.